Dana, when you listen to Khabib talk after the fight, it was almost as if he felt completely justified. He talked about Conor McGregor in his camp talking about his religion, his country, his own father, for crying out loud. He brought up all of that stuff somewhat as justification. Although he was apologetic, his mentality is, I was going after them. This is the kind of stuff that they were doing to me. What do you say to that?
Right. Right. Listen, there's no doubt that he's justified for being upset and everything else. But first of all, you just won the fight. You just beat the biggest superstar in all of sports, let alone our sport. You just beat him in front of the whole world. The whole world was watching. And it really wasn't about him and Conor at that moment. He was going after one of his cornermen. But the only one that's going to get hurt out of this whole thing is Khabib. Now he's got to go before the Nevada State Athletic Commission. They kept his purse. All the things that were said and whatever. You won the fight. You had the opportunity to stand up there, get the belt put on you, and in front of the whole world. Now you're going to stand in front of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. It's just a really bad decision in the heat of the moment.
Dana, there's something about a fight, I tweeted about this, like in a Game of Thrones trial by combat kind of way that makes you feel like the winner has the moral high ground. And Nurmagomedov proved his point in the octagon and then kind of gave it away. I get that. But I want to focus on, like, the moral high ground by the antics afterwards. I want to focus on the performance itself. Because since Ken Shamrock in the rematch with Gracie before Zuffa bought the UFC, and he got a draw, but Shamrock really won with the ground and pound. Ground and pound has been pretty tough to beat. And I'm thinking about Nurmagomedov, that performance last night in his career so far. I think he's the best I've ever seen ground and pound. And that was the ultimate example of it against a striker in Conor who can kind of defend against that stuff on the ground. Is he the best practitioner of ground and pound in the history of the UFC?
Yeah, the thing about him is once he gets a hold of you, takes you down, he has that unbelievable pressure where he stays so close to you, you can't move. And then once he gets in position, he destroys you.
And even when he started wearing Conor down and they stood up, he was beating Conor boxing. Like the striking stuff in the middle of the ring, Conor was landing some stuff here and there, but not really much that bothered him. He was the one landing the crisper shots because he'd already worn him down on the ground. I mean, the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now?
Yeah, definitely. And what he said was his corner told me that what the plan was to go in there, wear Conor out, and then he wanted to knock him out standing. That was what he really wanted to do. But you go in and obviously taking Conor down and finishing him that way was much easier. So he did what he always does.
I want to go
there's
back.
a lot of guys who fight. There's a lot of guys who fight that style that make it very boring. There's nothing boring about the way Khabib fights and wins. Well,
there's no question about that. Certainly wasn't the case Saturday night. I'll give you that. I wanted to go back to what one of Khabib's quartermen said. He talked about they were just decrying what Conor and his camp were doing. And then there's a quote that I'm reading from USA Today, and it says, "Let's be real here. The UFC promoted this fight with the videos. They didn't promote this as going to a golf tournament. They promoted this as a fight." Once again, giving not just only justification to Khabib feeling the way that he felt and choosing to go after them the way that he did, but also pointing to the UFC as being somewhat culpable about what transpired. To that you say what, Dana White?
Dumbest quote I've ever heard in my life. You're an idiot, whoever wrote that. This is a fight. And the way that we promoted this fight was exactly the way that this thing played out. That's all part of the storyline. Believe me, we've had almost 20 years I've been doing this. We've had plenty of fights where there's tons of bad blood and all kinds of things like this happen. And, we don't have fights after the fights. We have scuffles with guys in the back. I mean, this is the fight business, and a lot of people don't like each other. Yeah. That's just that's a stupid opinion.
Dana, you're going to be mad when I said it, but I kind of love what Khabib did. I'm sorry, that he went out there and he just showed his heart and he's not going to play and he's going to go after the guy and he kind of retaliated. But that's just coming from a fan's perspective. But can we expect...
No, I understand. And a lot of people feel the way that you feel.
Yeah, it makes me root for him. I got to be honest with you.
But you know who doesn't like it? The Nevada State Athletic Commission. And that's where the problem is.
Dana, what about a rematch?
First of all, he has to go before the commission. We have to see what's going to happen with Khabib with this whole mess. But Conor McGregor has already called me wanting a rematch. Dana,
an immediate rematch, or are you going to build him? Can Conor build himself up a little bit before an immediate rematch with this guy?
I don't. That's what she just asked me, and I said that's what Conor has asked for. We'll see what happens with Khabib and what's next. I mean, Tony Ferguson looked amazing. Those two have been lined up to fight, 3 different times, and it hasn't happened. So we'll see how this thing plays out.